In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience with smartwatches versus smart rings, and there's no better way to show you my experience than by taking you through a day in my life, hence why you're watching me wake up right now. Now, a quick disclosure, all three devices that I'll be using in this video were sent to me by the brands, but they are not paying me a dime to talk about their devices in this video. That includes the Ultrahuman Ring Air, the RingConn Generation 2, and the Mobvoi TicWatch Atlas for my smartwatch. So right now it's 6 a.m. and one of the biggest things that I use my watch for is as an alarm, because I hate being woken up by loud sounds. It's just a pet peeve of mine for some reason. Or not maybe a pet peeve, a preference. With the watch, obviously, it's just vibrating on my wrist right now, so I don't have to worry about loud sounds. Plus, it's very subtle. And if you, say, have a partner sleeping with someone else, or even pets, then you don't have to worry about accidentally waking them up as well. So with the watch, I can just wait for it to vibrate on my wrist and I can just close it off and I'm good to go. Unfortunately, the rings don't have that capability of setting alarms up, so you would have to use a regular alarm or use your phone. Now, of course, both of them are able to track your sleep, and you can see right now I am on the Ultrahuman Ring app. Right now it looks like we got 7 hours and 4 minutes of total sleep last night. And I also want to take a look at the starting battery life. So we're starting off the day with 51%. So we'll take a look at the battery as we go throughout the day. And then we take a look at RingConn here. So while that's generating the sleep battery, we're starting off with 39%. So you may think, wow, you're starting off with pretty low battery, but these rings are actually able to last for quite a long time. Compared to the watch, the current one that I'm using is the Mobvoi TicWatch Atlas, and this watch actually has decent battery life. So if we take a look at the starting battery life for the watch, we're at 79% for today. But as far as my sleep, the RingConn, this one claims I only got 6 hours and 35 minutes of total sleep. The time in bed was pretty much the same, 7 hours, 13 minutes here. And over here, I believe it was 7 hours, 14. Yeah, 7 hours, 14. And then my Mobvoi TicWatch, let's see if it has the sleep ready yet. So this one claims 6 hours and 54 minutes. Now the TicWatch only gives me my actual total sleep time. So this says 6 hours, 54 minutes. So it's kind of like in between. Hard to say which one is the most accurate. There you have a quick comparison of the sleep. The next thing I like to do with my day-to-day is go out for a run, and today we're choosing to do it right and early in the morning, so it is now 6:36 a.m. And I want to show you guys real quick what the starting step count is for each of the devices, so you can get an idea of how accurate they are and how they compare. Smart rings compared to the smartwatch. Now, one thing I do like to do while running, which I'm sure a lot of people do, is listen to music. And I actually don't take my phone with me. I like to use my watch itself. So typically people would take their phones with them to be able to listen to music, connect earbuds to them. But I do that all with my watch. So with Spotify Premium, I can download music straight onto the watch and then connect Bluetooth earbuds to the watch, so I can just keep everything hand-free. That's one thing I obviously cannot do with the smart rings, because they don't have any kind of Bluetooth connectivity as far as being able to connect to a pair of earbuds, or they don't have any kind of screen to be able to play music through them. So that's one thing that I cannot do with these smart rings, and another win for the smartwatch so far in my day-to-day, where again I prefer that smartwatch, one for the alarm and now again for listening to music and running. The metrics, no preference there, to be honest with you. I really don't need these devices to tell me if I'm having a good run. I mean, they're helpful, but mostly what I prefer is the convenience of the music with the smartwatch. I'm taking a quick look at the starting battery life and the step count before we go on our run. So with the Ultrahuman, let's see, our step count is at, where is it at? Oh, it's locked. So we don't even have 500 steps yet. And the battery is at still 51%. Now, if I go to the RingConn step count, starting off at 933 already. So nearly almost 1,000 steps somehow. And battery life is still at 39%. And with the Mobvoi, we are at 79% still. And as far as my activity, see if it doesn't load. 6 steps? Looks like 6 steps. Is that correct? Oh, no, that's not correct. 305 steps. So, with that being said, let's go for our run.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tiki.
The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
So I just came back from my run, and I just want to say I bought this vest thing to be able to put my camera on with MagSafe, or not my camera, my phone on here with MagSafe, so I can get some shots of myself while I was running. I just got like a POV shot of me running, and this thing just kept bouncing back and forth, and it just did not work out as I wanted it to. But hopefully I was able to show you guys a little bit of me running, some POV shots. But let's take a look at what the step count is for each device to see how they compare. So one thing with the watch here is that obviously you can set up tracking. So you can actually see the distance that I ran here. You can see my steps right away. You can see the calories, the duration for each lap. There's just various metrics here directly right onto the watch, versus on the rings, you don't have that at all. I mean, the apps may have the ability to start a workout. You have to have your phone with you at all times, versus the watch, it's built into the watch here. So you can see my different specs here as far as metrics for the run I just had. So overall, my step count is 4,939. So that's my total step count on the smartwatch right now. And the battery went down to 71%. So we lost 8% there during that run. Again, keep in mind, I was using the health tracking for the running as well as listening to music. Now taking a look at the rings. So first the Ultrahuman Ring. Hopefully it connects there. All right, so it looks like it did connect because the step count has updated. So wait for it to sync and connect. The last sync apparently was at 7:09. So I was in the middle of my run. I'm not sure if this is one thing that's a little frustrating with the rings. You have to wait for it to connect to be able to sync that data. So I guess we'll come back to it in a second. It doesn't seem to want to connect there. Now for the RingConn, okay, connected. So step count 5,475. Okay, so that's pretty close to the watch itself. And battery life still 39%. So of course it was just used for counting steps. But yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, I would say. Now about the Ultrahuman, see, will it connect? Still not connecting. Oh, there we go. Finally, it looks like it finally connected and synced up. Last synced at 7:21. Step count, it's still at, okay, so apparently I only got 3,483 steps with the Ultrahuman. Oh, nope, there we go, updated. 4,805. So, oh, okay. So, for the most part, they all seem to be relatively close to each other. So, as you can see there, it's just a little bit of a nuisance with the rings. The RingConn, I will say, does seem to connect a little bit faster and better versus the Ultrahuman. I definitely have issues with connections during sometimes. So that's something to keep in mind there as far as the ring comparisons, but we aren't directly comparing the rings quite yet. We're just mostly doing a day in a life, everyday experience with these devices. So that's what the experience is like as far as my running. Next, I guess got to take the dog out to go potty, and then I got to get myself some breakfast, shower up in a half hour because I got to go to work, which actually I work from home. So a lot of my day is spent at a desk. So let's just go ahead and get ready for work.
What are you doing?
This is the key ingredient to any good breakfast smoothie, in my opinion. Shake it up. Like I said, I had to split it in half, one for breakfast, one for lunch. So I use a blender bottle cup and just split the thing in half. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and take a shower. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I don't use my rings or my watches while I'm showering. They are water resistant. Both of the rings that I have are water resistant, but I just find it a little bit odd to bring a watch in or bring a ring into the shower, so I like to take them off while I'm showering. So while I do sometimes get these wet, definitely not while I'm showering. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. So just again, keep in mind, not using them while I shower, but you can if you want to. All right, so the time is now 8 a.m. and I'm about to start working. Not much happens while I'm working. I'm really just at my desk, whether I'm standing, right now I am standing, or I'm sitting, so not much movement going on. But at one point, I do want to talk about my experience with the rings and the smartwatch with my devices while typing and using the mouse. It affects it just a little bit. At first, it was jarring, but over time, I got used to it. So I'm gonna get to work. I'm gonna chow down on my breakfast smoothie and my apple Danish, which is what I usually have for breakfast, and get to work here. So I'll do a check-in later on. All right, so I've been diligently working for about 2 hours now, and I want to do a quick check-in, let you know what's going on with the devices. Absolutely nothing, because I've just been working at my desk right now. So I just want to take the time to talk about what my experience is with the rings, with the watches while I'm actually working. Mainly, does it affect my typing? Does it affect my usage of the mouse? It's really just going to be general feelings and thoughts with just a ring in general, because this could be affected by if you have a wedding ring potentially or a promise ring or whatever. My thoughts don't just apply to health rings. They are maybe a little bit thicker compared to a traditional ring. But honestly, at first it was a bit weird because of the fact that my right hand is what I use for my mouse, and you can see the ring pretty much just lays over top of it. As I'm using it here, you can see the ring pretty much touches the mouse. At first, this did feel a bit weird, a bit uncomfortable, but over the last couple of months, I've gotten used to it just fine. So at this point, it's no issue for me. If you do wear it on a different ring, of course, it is going to be a slightly different experience. Or if you're left-handed, with my other ring, with the Ultrahuman on my left hand, it doesn't bother me when typing at all. With the watch, I do sometimes feel uncomfortable when I'm typing on a keyboard. Now, of course, it does depend on the watch band that I'm using. Sometimes, like when I have my wrist on the table, it just doesn't feel very comfortable. It's really just the wristband on the table that makes it feel a little bit odd sometimes, and it does build up a bit of a rash over time. But otherwise, honestly, typing, using my mouse, you get used to it over time. And of course, this is just general watch and general ring usage. So it's not really specific to the fact that these are health rings and a health smartwatch. And I also use this rocker. This just helps me, stay a little bit active while I'm standing and working. I used to use a walking pad, but this actually broke. I'm not sure if you guys actually remember seeing a video on this I did. And after like a month after I posted the video, for some reason it stopped working. So Mobvoi, if you want to reach out to help me fix this, it's actually just been laying up against the wall for like the past, I want to say, 3-4 months now. So yeah, it hasn't been used for quite a minute. So I used to use this a lot and I would get my steps in, but unfortunately I'm not able to use it anymore. So I've gone back to just my regular rocker that just helps me rock back and forth. Sometimes these do count as steps on my watch and on the rings. The only issue is that while I am working and I'm using the mouse and the keyboard, obviously my hands are right here. So they're not actually by my side, so I'm not swaying my hand, so that does affect whether or not it counts it as a step or not. So while I may be walking and making steps, they're not actually being counted because of the fact that my hands are on the table. Like I'm typing or I have my mouse and I'm using my mouse. So, and speaking of which, let's take a look real quick at what the step counts are since the last time that we checked. So starting with the watch here, you can see I'm at 6,054 steps, and the battery life is, oh, it's actually locked. Okay, there we go. Battery life is now down to 68%. Okay, so it went down about 3% there from the last time that we checked. Now taking a look at the rings, let's see how quick it connects to the Ultrahuman. Oh, look at that. It actually connected pretty quickly, but the last sync was at 9:38. Now looking at the steps here, you can see we're at 5,722 steps, or 5,780 steps. It just updated. So again, pretty close still to the watch. And the battery life, we are at 49%. So it went down a little bit as well. Now looking at the RingConn steps. Oh, this one's a little bit higher. So this one's at 6,546 steps. And the battery life, 38%. So this one only went down 1%, which is pretty good. So you can see there the difference as far as the steps count so far. Now, of course, you do got to keep in mind where I'm using them. My Ultrahuman ring is on my left hand along with the smartwatch, versus the RingConn is on my right hand. I'm trying to be as fair as possible, meaning that whenever I'm like rocking on my rocker or I'm walking in place, I'm trying to keep both hands free so that they can both sway and just be traditional and try and be as accurate, because there may be times where maybe I'm holding my phone with one hand or I'm using my mouse but not my keyboard, so my left hand's swinging but not my right hand. So I'm trying to be fair, trying to make it accurate as possible, but there may be some discrepancies there because of certain scenarios that I'm in. So for now, we're gonna keep working. We'll probably check in again around lunchtime. That's usually when I have obviously some food, and I usually do some yoga as well, and I'll talk about what my experience is with yoga and these devices. Alright, so we somehow fast forwarded to lunchtime. I didn't really record much other than me just walking in and place with my rocker, but it is now 12:53. We're going to do a check-in on my steps to see how they compare when I was using the rocker, and also just talk about how I use my watch to set a lot of timers. So when I go for my lunch, I'd like to set a timer on my watch so that I can actively see how much time I have left at all times, because obviously my watch is on my wrist at all times. So that's just how I keep track of it. So another win for the smartwatch, allowing me to set a timer directly onto it, versus obviously the rings, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to use your phone for that. I can easily go over to my timers here, start a new one. I take an hour lunch, press start, and I am good to go to start my lunch. Now taking a look at the step count and the battery life, so we're at 12,126 steps with 60% battery life. All right, so we're at 10,706 steps on the Ultrahuman, and our battery life is at 45%. Okay, and now taking a look at the RingConn. Let this load at 11,047. So we're starting to see a difference there. Again, there may be different reasons as to why. It could be because I was using my mouse or using the keyboard while I was rocking on the rocker, and it didn't count some steps. So there are a bit of a difference there. You can see now between the steps. And with that being said, we're off to do some yoga. I usually do yoga during my lunch break. Usually it's like 25 minutes or so. I use this YouTuber who you might know her if you do yoga yourself, Yoga with Adrian. She does some good classes, so I just do that during my lunch to get some movement since I'm doing a lot of sitting and standing at a desk. And the only thing that comes into play with the watches and the smart ring here is with the smartwatch, I'll usually turn on the yoga workout. It doesn't really do much because it just tracks my heart rate and gives me a sense of how hard I'm going as far as my intensity. With the rings, I don't turn on any kind of workout for the yoga. And as far as comfort here, it doesn't really matter to me for either or. So with that being said, we can just do my session. Alright, so right after finishing yoga is whatever I have time left is what I use to make myself some lunch, eat some lunch. Usually it's nothing dramatic. Like I said, in the morning I make myself my smoothie, which is half for breakfast, half for lunch. Then I usually either eat some granola bars, some fruit, or sometimes I'll make myself a PB&J sandwich, or just a regular ham and cheese sandwich. So lunch is pretty basic for me, nothing extraordinary. I don't go out to eat or anything like that. So yeah, so I'm gonna make myself some lunch now and just hang out until I have to go back to work. So I've decided I'm gonna go with a peanut butter and a jelly sandwich for lunch with my shake today. So that's what I'm gonna do. By the way, do you guys spread the peanut butter first or the jelly first, or do you put peanut butter on both sides of the bread or one or the other? How do you guys spread your peanut butter? I personally like to spread peanut butter on both sides because I love peanut butter, and then add jelly just to one side and just have more peanut butter than jelly, in my opinion. That's just how I like my sandwiches, but everyone has their own preference. So I'm curious to know what you guys think as far as the PB&J instructions as far as how to put them together. So typically I'll sit down, eat my lunch while I'm watching some kind of YouTube video. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna chow down on this lunch and watch some videos while I wait for the time to go back to work. Alright, my lunch is officially over, so it's time to clock back in and get back to work. So it's going to be more of the same, so I'll check in probably after work because it's really just going to be me working at the desk again, and we'll take a look at the step count, if I did some rocking on the rocker or maybe just did some walking around. So yeah, we'll check back in after work.
Later.
Okay, so I just finished work and I want to take a quick look at what the step counts are and the battery life for each device, so to see if it drained at all. So far the rings have been doing pretty good, and the watch obviously is doing a little bit faster. So let's take a quick look at what the stats are at. So starting with the watch, we have 12,871 steps and we're at 55% battery life. Alright, so Ultrahuman, again, we gotta wait for it to connect. I think it's synced up. 521, looks like we're pretty synced up here. 41% battery life and 11,590 steps. So it's definitely a good amount off from the watch here. Now comparing it to the RingConn, let's see. The RingConn's actually pretty close. 12,324. Only about 500 off. So not bad. Now as far as battery life, it actually went down a good bit. Now it's down at 32%. So right after work, I like to put in a quick session with some dumbbells. So here I have my at-home gym, which is just my living room, and just with some dumbbells that actually were featured on an MKBHD studio podcast. So he happened to actually have the dumbbells I already have, which are the Bow Flex dumbbells, which are very convenient because you can easily switch between different weights and don't have to buy multiple sets of weights of different weights. So you can just progress as you please. Now, this is where the smartwatch versus the rings again come into play. And the smartwatch once again comes in with the win. The comfort and handability, the usability of using dumbbells with rings in general, not comfortable. Not only does it feel rough on your hands, like it just doesn't allow you to get a good grip and do a proper set with the weights, especially when you're doing curls and really have to grip onto the dumbbell. Additionally, you could hurt yourself. You could really hurt yourself with the rings. I've tried both ways. I've tried, working out with the rings and working out without the rings. And majority of the time, I feel so much more comfortable without the rings on. Now, this is where you also potentially lose out on some of those key steps. So that's where the discrepancies start to come into play again, where of course I'll keep my watch on because for me, the watch does not bother me at all when I'm working out. It doesn't really get in the way. Only time is sometimes when I'm doing push-ups. It sometimes does feel a little bit odd, but other than that, it usually does not get in the way. And again, I use my watch to be able to set timers, to track certain workouts where I do it based on time versus on sets. So again, the smartwatch comes in with the win there. So in this case, I am going to do a couple sets, a couple of exercises with the rings on, and then probably halfway through the workout, I'll probably end up taking them off because again, it just will feel much more comfortable. And while I work out, this is my time to actually watch some YouTube since I don't get too much time nowadays to actually sit down and watch YouTube. So during my workout sessions, this is when I'll catch up on some of the channels that I watch. I'll just watch their videos. So we're going to be watching a Michael Bryan video now, so you'll probably be in the background for a good bit of this workout session. And so now I'm going to do a workout that does require the timer. Again, you can just use your smartphone, but the convenience of just being able to use my watch to quickly set a 1-minute timer, which is how long I'm going to be doing this workout for, is super nice in my opinion. So I right now have just set it to 1 minute. I'm gonna restart it obviously, but the convenience and the fact that it just vibrates on my wrist, making sure that I know right away when the timer is up. Of course, we gotta give Tiki some attention while we work out, right, Tiki? Tiki, what do you gotta say to the world? Yeah, exactly what I thought. So I've done a couple sets now with the rings on. It's just clear. It's obvious that it's gonna be way more comfortable if you have the rings off. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually take them off for the remaining of the workout just because it'll make me feel a bit more comfortable and also potentially just get better sets in because I definitely felt like I was trying to grip uncomfortably. And the good thing is that my dumbbells have a rubber piece, a bit of metal exposed on the edges, and for the most part I'm trying to grip using the rubber piece and not the metal areas so that I don't scratch these as much. Now they're definitely scratched up a good bit because of that, but either way it's much more comfortable without them on, so I'm going to go ahead and take them off for the remainder of the workout. So workout's done, and like I said, it's much more comfortable without the rings on. And again, that just goes with any rings in general. It's not just particularly with the smart rings. I will say they are a bit thicker compared to regular smart rings, so it does add a little bit to the feel when they're on your fingers. And then the smartwatch, it will depend on what kind of workout you are doing. So if you're doing workouts where you're constantly bending your wrist, there may be workouts that maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable, where it may pinch your skin near your wrist. But for the most part, for me, my workouts don't tend to bother me as far as using the smartwatch. So smartwatch wins it again for me when it comes to the workouts. Plus, like I mentioned, can set timers directly on the smartwatch without having to use your phone every single time. So after my workout, I go have dinner. So that's what we're gonna go do now. Just gonna eat some food. Then afterwards, we're just gonna pretty much relax and pretty much wrap up the day. So I'll go over my key takeaways for the watch versus the rings shortly after I have some food. Torch, say something to the people. What do you think of rings versus smartwatches? I would agree. So one of the last things that I do in my day-to-day is just play some video games. So I'll spend at least, at the minimum, a half hour playing some games. Right now, I'm actually playing Spider-Man 2. I just recently finished it. Well, the main storyline, I'm in the epilogue, so I'm going through that right now. So it's just a way to relax. I used to be a big gamer when I was younger, so definitely miss being able to just kick back with the friends and hop on a Call of Duty game, Minecraft server, those kind of games, GTA 5. Those were back in the day were my games. But right now, I spend a lot of my time playing story mode games. And like I said, the main one that I'm playing right now is Marvel Spider-Man 2. So I'm going to spend some time actually walking in place, because I like to test that to see if the rings and the smartwatches can pick up those steps, see how many steps I pick up from that. So actually, I'll do a quick check at what the step counts are right now before we walk in place. And then we'll check what they are afterwards to see, if they're accurate or not. And also, speaking of, playing video games, the feeling of the rings on my hands while I'm holding my controller, again, felt a little weird at first because, of course, the rings do come into contact with the controller itself with both fingers. But over time, I got used to it. All right, so taking a look at the step counts here. So we have 14,861 steps on the Atlas TicWatch with 52% battery life. We're at 13,971. So again, it's somewhat off, almost 1,000 off. That's what we're currently at with the Ultrahuman Ring. And battery life is at 36%. RingConn is at 15,635 steps. So this one's a bit over, but it's still relatively close. Battery life is at 31%. Also, I like to watch a little bit of YouTube while I'm gaming, just on the side, how we are with our generation, where we have to have something going on at all times, otherwise you're not satisfied with your dopamine hits. So we do have a YouTube video playing on the background here. And again, another timer. So the smartwatch comes into play, set 30 minutes on the dot, so I make sure I don't go over. What the fuck? Well, that's a shame. My alarm is actually going off right when I started a Pokemon battle. So, but an alarm's an alarm, so we gotta stop the game here. By the way, I did finish Spider-Man 2, and now I am going to continue playing Pokemon Scarlet, which I started many months ago and I completely forgot about it. So I'm gonna pick up on this now that I've finished Spider-Man 2. Okay, so in the end here, we finished wrapping up our walking in place and playing video games. So we're gonna take a look real quick at how many steps I got after that. So we're at 19,208 steps now with 51% battery life. 37% battery life with 16,806 steps. 31% battery life with 18,436 steps. I would beg to say that the RingConn and the smartwatch, the Mobvoi TicWatch Atlas, are probably the most accurate out of the three of them. So the Ultrahuman seems to be a little bit inaccurate potentially, or the RingConn and the TicWatch are just a little too sensitive. Okay, so it's pretty much the end of my day for the most part. So I just wanted to wrap it up and just give my key takeaways as far as a smartwatch versus a smart ring. So as you saw throughout my day, honestly, the smartwatch is way more useful than a smart ring, because the smart ring is mostly just health tracking. The smartwatch does a lot more than the ring does, and they're honestly pretty much around the same price. So for me, I'm gonna pick a smartwatch any day. So as you saw, the alarms, the timers, obviously seeing the time, being able to listen to music while on my runs directly from the smartwatch, to connect Bluetooth earbuds to it. And something I didn't really talk about throughout my day, but getting notifications and phone calls all straight onto my wrist, being able to vibrate to let me know that I have a message on my phone. There's just so many more advantages, in my opinion, to a smartwatch compared to a smart ring. But it is going to come down to the kind of person that you are and what you're looking for specifically. I could totally see the smart ring being for someone who's more of a minimalist. So there's many reasons to why you would want to pick a smart ring over a smart watch. And of course, you can use them in tandem. So you could potentially use the smart ring for, say, maybe you're running and also maybe you're sleeping. So if you don't want to use a smart watch while you're doing particular activities, you can use a smart ring. But then for me, the issue then becomes, how do you sync them together? Because then you'll have some data over here, some data over here, and you could potentially find a third-party service to blend in that data so it's all under one umbrella. But for me, I better just stick to one thing, and that one thing is more than likely going to be my smartwatch. Now, again, that's not to say that these particular smart rings that I have right now are bad, but it's just my personal preference as far as the overall form factor. So with all this being said, I hope this day in the life gave you guys a bit of an insight on what a smart ring and a smartwatch bring to the table when it comes to your everyday life. Of course, everyone has different things that they do in their everyday, and you may think that in your lifestyle, you may benefit more out of a smart ring versus a smart watch. And I'll also be sure to leave links down in the description for you guys if you want to check out these devices. Again, this was the RingConn Gen 2, and then also the Ultrahuman ring for my rings that I use, and then the Mobvoi TicWatch Atlas was the smartwatch that I've been using currently in my day-to-day. And Ultrahuman is having a Black Friday sale, so you are able to get the ring at a pretty decent discount. So with all that being said, hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace.